Ryan McClanahan with historythroughcards.com. I hope you're all doing very well. So in one of the last videos I posted, I told you guys about a field trip I went on in the 6th grade to the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum here in Boston, and it was actually 2 days before the paintings were stolen. And it's always fascinated me ever since. Unfortunately, I think we're never going to see those paintings again, as it looks like the last person who knew of the paintings has died. However, it got me to thinking about what else has been pilfered from museums or gone or lost, stolen in regards to sports and sports memorabilia. And so I found a list that I thought was really interesting, and I wanted to share a little bit with you and a card as well. So, in terms of baseballs, I'm just going to read this list real quickly. Bobby Thompson's home run ball from October 3rd, 1951. That's actually the shot heard around the world when he stole a sign, and he hit off Ralph Branca, and it kind of destroyed Ralph Branca as a pitcher. I knew both of these gentlemen when they were still alive. However, I never asked Bobby about his stealing signs. We talked about a lot of other issues other than baseball. He's a really nice guy too. Ralph, I knew a little bit as well. I think the last time I talked to Ralph, he was living on a golf course. But so that ball has never been seen, and I don't think it's ever going to be seen. In fact, there is a photo, from what I've heard, of a guy in the neighborhood who caught the ball, but they've never been able to track the ball or the person down. And so one of the problems is, how do you verify it? I'm not sure you can do that. Um, and so from what I've heard, that ball has $1 million price tag on it for anybody who can authenticate it. um, so another ball is Ray Chapman's bean ball from August 16th, 1920. Unfortunately, Carl Mays, who was on a track to potentially be in the Hall of Fame at some point, I don't think he's got a chance because of this. Mays was another guy who was very temperamental, and Chapman, he's the only major leaguer to actually be killed by a pitch, but he's not the only major leaguer to die from, um, I guess, his time on the field. And if I remember correctly, Doc Powers, who was in the 1909 T206 set, he died from eating a bad cheese sandwich, and had to be taken off the field. Um, and so I think there's a few minor leaguers as well. I think John Dodge from 1915, he was in the minors. He actually did play the majors at one point, but he died on the field as well, and I think it from a beanball. So it does happen. Baseball is still a dangerous sport, even though Teddy Roosevelt called it a mollycoddle sport. It really sounds like fighting words to me, you know. Anyway, uh, so I think Tom Conley actually had that ball in his possession, um, and I think they have seen it at one point, so they know it exists. But again, it's now the same problem with the Bobby Thompson home run ball. How do you verify it? Um, and then Bill Masrowski's 1960 Game 7 World Series home run ball. In that case, from what I remember, there were a lot of baseballs on the field, and maybe ground crew had taken the ball as well, and so that one too is a mystery as far as what happened to it. And again, with anything else, authentication is needed. I don't think that you can authenticate a baseball in the same way you could authenticate a a card. In fact, I'm looking for a card now and I can't find one. But the way you can authenticate a card um, usually is by if it has any distinct characteristics on it to determine whether it's yours or not. To say if in the Bill Mastro case a few years ago, he had actually stolen a bunch of cards from a collector, and the collector went to Judge, I think, Gutierrez. I could be wrong about that, but he went to the judge and he said, "Hey, listen, like these are my cards, and I can prove it because I took photos before and after, and these cards showed up at the auction." And that's the the judge saw that, and he's like, "Yeah, well, I'm gonna tack on some more time to that." So um, that's that's a whole other issue. I understand, but uh, then you have the 1925 Hamilton Tigers, and it's particularly their jersey. So from what I understand, the entire team went on strike in 1925, and the jerseys have never, no jersey has ever actually been found. And I think a few years ago they actually did uh, say that they found a jersey, but I'm not entirely certain that it was the jersey from 1925 or what. So I'm not sure if this jersey has actually been found, but there was a heavy price tag to it, and those can be authenticated a lot easier than a baseball, or even maybe sometimes a card. And then you have Eddie Grant's World War One Polo Grounds Memorial, which was taken in 1957 when the team was transfer or basically they moved to San Francisco. I think at the end of the year, you had like 11 or 10,000 fans just trash the field and basically take whatever they wanted, um, which I guess is better than the wrecking ball just destroying everything, like the Scheib Field in you know 1970. I think half of that field that actually ended up burning down. Um, but in any case, um, you do you do have an instance where a bunch of kids took it and they were caught, but they never gave up the trophy, not the trophy, the memorial, and so we don't know where that is. Um, and then you have the Black Sox Confessions from 1921. And this is really interesting because um, the the confessions, I guess, especially from Joe Jackson's standpoint, he was illiterate. He was functionally illiterate, and he had his wife do all of his handwriting and reading and all that stuff, and she wasn't present for for his confession actually. Um, and so the one thing with Joe Jackson, a lot of people say that he should be in the Hall of Fame, and normally I would agree with that. You have one of the best home run hitters of the generation, if not the best hitter of his era. Um, but he did lie under oath about his participation in the game, and actually SABR has a really great article on Joe Jackson's confessions and Joe Jackson's participation in the Black Sox scandal, along with his 1925 loss in the courts to try to get his pension back. And I'm not going to ruin that for you because I think that's a really great article that you should read at some point. It might change your thinking on not just Joe Jackson, but on Charles Comiskey as well. My own personal thought, is that Buck Weaver, I think, is innocent. I'd like to see his reinstatement into baseball. I think he was a scapegoat for the rest of them, and I think Charles Comiskey, you know, he should. I don't like to see anyone's plaque being pulled, but I think out of all of them, I think Charles Comiskey really has the burden of what went on and how these guys were able to cheat. Um, Charles Comiskey really is, in my mind, the one to blame for all of that. But then you also have to blame horse racing as well, which um, it sounds kind of strange, really, if you think about it. But parimutuel betting was banned in horse racing in 1902 by the states, and the gamblers needed somewhere to go, so they actually went over to baseball instead, and that's how you get the 1919 um, World Series fix. Um, anyway, I digress. So, um, getting back to all this stuff, uh, there was a card that I recently purchased this year. Actually, I should say 2021, not this year, because this year is 2022. So, I actually purchased this card after looking for it for I think about 12 or 13 years. It's been on my mind, and I just never been able to find a copy. Um, and so this is it, and I'm going to show you a better example because you guys, this camera is not really doing justice. But this is an 1887 World's Beauties of Helen Duvray, Helen Duvray, um, and one, she married John Montgomery Ward in 1887. Don't quote me on the exact date, but I'm pretty sure it's 1887. And she was an actress as well. And she also was the inventor of, or she commissioned the Dauvray Cup, which is the 11 cup that was um, delivered or sent to the world's champions uh, prior to the Temple Cup, which actually replaced this cup. So, um, Helen Duvray was a real big baseball fan, uh, and she used to go to see the Giants at the Polo grounds on a regular basis. I think her career wasn't really doing very well. It was on the fritz, and so in order to um, regain some of her composure as an actress, she had a 11 cup designed by the, let me see if I wrote it down here, by the Gorham Silver Company, and I think about 1887. So the Giants won the championship in 1888 and 1889. The Detroit Wolverines won it in 1887, and in all that time, the cup was given to the champions. Plus, I think there was if I can remember this right, there was a medal as well that was given out to the players, and I've seen a few of those, so I know those exist. Um, thing is, the last time the cup was actually seen was in 1893 when the Boston Bean Eaters, oh man, when they won the championship 3 times in a row. I hate that the Bean Eaters are named the Bean Eaters. What an awful, awful name. And they would obviously be the Boston Doves, who would turn into the Boston Braves in 1912. But that's another story that I'll dive into like a Jello filled pool at some point. Um, so the uh, the the Duvre Cup was never seen again. It's never been seen since November of 1893. It was replaced by the Temple Cup, um, and that served until probably the late 1890s. Because you have to remember that the World Series in baseball was first in 1903 as a result from the two, the American League and the National League ended up trying to resolve their differences, and so you get the World Series for that year. And I think this is really kind of interesting because we do know what the Dauvray Cup looks like. There are photos of it, so it's not like we don't have anything to go on. The problem is um, what happened to it afterwards. You're looking at over 110, 100, 120 years plus. It could have been melted down. It could have been in somebody's storage. Like, who knows what happened. We do know that Helen Duvray didn't care much for baseball afterwards. She and John Montgomery Ward divorced in 1892, and they went their separate ways. He actually stayed on with baseball after his career. He was a lawyer, and he was very, pretty fundamental. Okay, fundamental in the Boston Braves organization in 1912, and he actually was the one who uh, coined the team the Braves. And I'm not going to get into the reasons for that, but they are really fascinating. Um, in fact, I might actually write an article specific to that. Um, but the one thing I have noticed too is in Boston and Massachusetts, every institution, whether it be the State House or the Boston Public Library, or any of the art museums, um, there has been thefts, and uh, in fact, a lot of the stuff that's been stolen has ended up at auction, and so I want to go through that just a minute with you. So there are other items that are not actually on that list, and one of the more interesting stories that I've heard over the years is the Walter Johnson opening day autographed presidential baseballs. So as you know, William Howard Taft is the first president to throw out a baseball on opening day. He's the one who started that entire thing. And he's also actually one of my favorite presidents as well. I write about him quite often because he does play a pivotal role in the production of tobacco cards in 1909. He also played a pivotal role in the 16th Amendment as well. A tear is kind of coming down my eye for that one. But he still happens to be one of my favorites. I just feel kind of bad for him too for getting stuck in a bathtub, and when he has a lot more, I should say, there's a lot more going on with the guy than a bathtub, and that's all we hear about him. In any event, other presidential baseballs that were signed were Woodrow Wilson, definitely not one of my favorites. Uh, Warren G. Harding, Calvin Coolidge, and Herbert Hoover. He rounds out the list. And so, back in October of 1977, Hank Thomas was given a tour of Cooperstown to view the baseballs, and the one thing that he didn't see, or the attendant didn't see, were those baseballs. At first, it was thought that maybe they were just in storage, but he kind of feared the worst, that they were stolen. And in fact, the Baseball Hall of Fame did acknowledge at some point that they were stolen, probably back in 1972 was their guess, by a former employee. Uh, all of the baseballs were actually recovered except for the Warren G. Harding baseball. In fact, Hank Thomas wrote an article about it in the Washington Post in 2004. And I looked a little bit past 2004 to see what happened. Um, in fact, he was looking in a Ron Osser auction catalog and saw a few of these baseballs in there. And so they were all recovered except, like I say, the Warren G. Harding. Nobody knows what happened to it, and that's really unfortunate too. I don't know if Warren G had a long time to sign any other baseballs or much of anything. He actually died in 1923 from a heart attack. And in all fairness, if he had lived, he probably would have been impeached anyway. So it kind of like gets me to thinking that, what is safe, what is sacred when it comes to this. A lot of stuff ends up at auctions that shouldn't. And the auctions, in my estimation, don't really do a whole lot of research into this as they should. Now, when they do actually find something that is stolen or has questionable authenticity, they will pull it. However, I have actually heard a story not too long ago that the last will and let's try that one again, shall we? The last will and testament of Connie Mack was up at auction, and I forget which one. I'm sorry, guys, but that one ended up being stolen. So there's actually two copies of that, and the one that they stole was from the city archives. So I do have other stories. I don't want to get into them right now, but I just wanted to let you guys in on that little one and a few others. And I really hope you have a good day, night, evening, and I'll see you guys later. So thank you very much. Bye.